Good morning. Good morning, flyover people. Good morning, Midwesterners. This is WRFFO Radio, and this is Bob Pew Pew coming to you from the Midwest, from the Great Plains to the Great Lakes and everything in between. The music actually was really fitting this morning. It fit what I was gonna talk about, and I'm gonna drill down into something pretty quickly here, because I'm here in my car, and I use this downtime between getting up in the morning, going to work, or vice versa, getting off of work and going home. So the car is like a safe space to a lot of people. I noticed that a lot of people do videos from their vehicle, and I think there's a good reason behind that. It's pretty simple. It's private space. You could say what you feel here, and I think that there's a certain psychology that goes along with the calmness of being on the road. It seems to really bring things out for people. Creativity, it brings out creativity for them. But I want to drill down really quick into something so we understand each other. I am an MRA. And for those of you who don't know what an MRA is, it's a men's rights activist. And this is a recent development in my life. I mean, recent is as recent as 2014. So I guess it's been a few years, or maybe a little bit sooner than that. Maybe it was like 2012, 2013. But it definitely, by the time 2014 rolled around, I was pretty rock solid, and I came to an understanding of what was going on in my life and what was going on in the lives of guys, and to the world that we live in. The lives of guys, or the lives of men, are pretty inconsequential. I don't know if you look at the media and you watch TV, or you listen to what is said at work, and the things that you're told at work, and look at how people are promoted now at work. You have to admit that a lot of men have become persona non grata. I'm also aiming this particular video at all the young men who are members of Antifa now, because you're looking for an answer. And this is just, I want to make sure you understand that this video is not about Antifa, but I'm aiming this statement at those male members of Antifa, because I think you need to question why you're there. And I think the question is pretty easily answered. It's about who you've been forced to answer to, and for how long you've been forced to do so. The situation that brought me to being a men's rights activist had to do with my oldest son, who was going through a divorce, and he was very young when he got married, and there was he certainly wasn't over his maleness. He wasn't over his testosterone. And I'm not saying you need to be over your testosterone. This is not about our feelings now. It's about, the only feeling that's involved here is about the role that we're supposed to play in society. And we feel, and you might even be sitting there every day, and you might go to work, or you might wake up and you don't have a job, and you're a guy, and the world was meant to be different, or you thought it was meant to be different, and you don't understand what happened. There was a lot that happened to us in the background that we don't get until somebody points it out to us. And I'm here to point it out to you now, so you understand just exactly what happened. The biggest thing that happened was a thing called the sexual revolution, which took place in the 1960s and 70s. And this kind of came to the surface for me because I had a really deep conversation with a guy at work. And he's a guy who is basically single, and I think he's what we would call MGTOW, which is men going their own way, though he doesn't necessarily express that. I think that's how he lives his life. Is he doesn't have a girlfriend, and he doesn't have a wife, and he's not gay by any stretch of the imagination, but he is on his own. And I've seen a lot of that where I live now. The area that I came from, a lot of guys were married and they were struggling through multiple divorces and multiple kids and paying child support. And there's that system, the system that worked against us. When I talk about that stuff, there's a system that worked against us. But it all happened during the sexual revolution, when the next level, which is referred to in a lot of circles as the fourth wave of feminism, took root in this country. But what happened was they got into the court systems, and they got into the schools, and they got control of the schools. And for a young guy who might be listening to this, I'm going to ask one simple question. Do you ever feel that if you're at work or if you're still a student in school, do you ever feel that you maybe don't have a voice? Do you feel like, and maybe you don't sit there and articulate it out in the open to yourself and say, a male Martin Luther King. And when I say male, I mean all males. I mean black males, Asian males, Hispanic males, all males. I don't care what country you're from. I mean all males, all of us. I mean, do you ever feel like maybe you want to say something, but then like right around your neck and your shoulders and in your throat, you feel like it just can't come out? You can't say what you really feel? Do you ever have that experience where you say, I sure to hell better bite my tongue on this one? Maybe it was a promotion you got passed up on. Maybe it's just something going on around you at work that you can't put a finger on, that you just don't clearly understand. The reason I ended up becoming an MRA, and I know I bounced around a little bit here in the morning, I was going to talk about that, is because I had an adult son who had a lot of issues. I'm sorry, I bounced away from that. And what happened was he was going through a divorce, and he had taken off to go to Michigan, and I didn't understand completely what happened there, and I was afraid because I knew I'd been through 2 divorces, and I was on the cusp of another one right around the time I'm mid 50s, which is when a lot of women initiate divorces. So you're in an established situation and suddenly find yourself in a divorce. But that's a whole other subject. But that's what kind of started me on this path. But anyway, so he disappeared to Michigan, and I was really concerned because I'd been through this with his mom, and I was going through another one with another couple of kids, and he wasn't paying child support, and I was scared for him because I knew that he kind of skirted the law a lot of times because he smoked pot and he used drugs, and he was obviously a kid coming out of the 70s and 80s, and I'm not making excuses, but this is just how it was. And so I contacted him in Michigan, and I was like, what's going on with you? I haven't heard from you, and are you paying child support, or what's going on? Because I was scared for him, because I didn't want his ex-wife to get on him or call her lawyer, and suddenly he's not paying child support and it'd be a warrant out for his arrest. And every guy who's been through a divorce and has child support and understands exactly what I'm talking about. And he said, no, I never got anything like that. I'm like, did you sign divorce papers? He says, yeah, I signed divorce papers. I'm like, you need to send me your divorce papers. I need to look at them. Because I had a lot of experience with the law, and I had a lot of experience with divorce papers. And I wanted to know what was going on. So when he sent the divorce papers, what I found out was that he had been intimidated. And the reason he'd been intimidated is because as a kid and all his whole life, he had ADHD. And he was a very nervous individual, and he was always scared and intimidated by people. So it was very easy for her, his ex-wife, to sit down in a restaurant situation. By the way, she brought her brother along and her father to intimidate him. And he basically signed the divorce papers without looking at him or reading them because he was scared. And he gave her sole custody in the stroke of a pen without knowing what he got into. I helped him work through that. And eventually we did get him some form of visitation, but his ex-wife still interferes with that on a regular basis because she's not a nice person. And there's a lot of female not nice persons who are out there, a whole bunch of them. It's another part of my point. So what it led me to Google, and Google is something we didn't have when I first went through a divorce. So you had to listen to a lawyer. You listen to what the lawyer told you to do. So I Googled, what rights do men have? And when I did that, a whole world opened up to me that I didn't know existed. It was a world of men who were talking to each other and explaining what they had gone through and giving each other advice. And they were on social media, and they were talking to each other, and they were saying all kinds of things that I never heard nor understood. I didn't understand that there was somebody who was concerned about men's rights, and I didn't also realize through all the subtlety of what, by the way, the left, the liberals had done to the system. Because every day when somebody I'd heard either at work through, if you were in the military, I was in the military 18 years. Every day, through drill, I was part-time. Every day, every weekend, all you heard was shit from Sharps training. All it was sexual harassment training. That's what everything turned into. Everything turned into a grand social experiment. And a grand social experiment was aimed at men, to change the behavior of men. And there's reasons behind this, and you have to wake up to what those reasons and those realities are. This is very important for you to remember. And I'm not saying that women aren't the victims of men. Human beings are the victims of human beings, and I think we need to draw that distinction too. That it isn't always men who rape. Women rape too. Women molest children, and so do men. And that's the point. But men have been led to believe that we are the fault for everything that's happened in modern society. And this is not true. This is a two-way street. Domestic violence is a 360-degree problem. I have a friend of mine online, and her name is Erin Pizzey. Erin Pizzey is a resident of Great Britain. Erin Pizzey was the first woman to open up a female shelter for women who were affected by domestic violence. But as the years drug on in her profession, as she dealt with these women who were allegedly coming out of violent homes with violent husbands, she found out that it wasn't completely true. What she found out was that women were also violent, and that the violence was everybody's problem. The feminists went after Erin Pizzey. She had to move to the United States for a while because they were threatening her life. She had to get out. They were going to kill her. They threatened to bomb her. They threatened to kill her. The police wanted her to leave the country because they could no longer protect her. Because just like we're seeing now, the police are being shoved over on the side. So they could do what? So they can come down to our level and hurt us that much more. And they have. They've hurt us a lot. It was the liberals who formulated the Violence Against Women Act, making men, strictly men, the perpetrators of domestic violence. And I'm not saying that men don't perpetrate domestic violence, because you and I know better, we do. But so do women. That is the point. So when you wake up this morning and you're wondering what the hell happened, maybe you don't have a job right now because of everything that's happened and the control that's being hoisted upon us once again by the leftists, by the liberals, okay, by the scientists. By the way, most scientists are liberals. I have information for you. So there's another clue for you to contemplate about things that might be going on and why you might feel you're under some kind of control, which you are. So at the end of the day, when you feel like you don't have a voice, maybe when suddenly your girlfriend, and I've seen this in action over and over again now lately in a big way, where suddenly I'm talking to a male about something sensitive, and his girlfriend happens to be sitting there or standing there. I've watched her jump in and interject against me and throw me down and try to get her boyfriend away from me, because they don't want them to have any information. They don't want them educated. They don't want them thinking for themselves. And I've seen it firsthand. There's a particular group that's concerned about what's going on in the schools in my area, because during this time, they want their kids to go back to school. They want them to move past this pandemic thing, and they want their kids back in school full time, because perhaps they perceive that this is bullshit, that there is no real pandemic, there is no real threat. They need their kids out of the house so they can get back to work and their businesses can get back to normal. But they're not being allowed to do that. And they're not being allowed to do that because somebody is controlling the narrative. And it's the liberals controlling the narrative. But anyhow, there's a Facebook page where it's allegedly parents, plural parents. That's how the heading on the Facebook page, parents for kids returning to school, because they were shot down and terrorized by the liberals online when they voiced their opinion about wanting to get their kids back to school. But the one thing I noticed is that particular page was highly gynocentric. It was all females, and when I tried to speak, I was shut down. Even though they were parents like me, I wanted my kids to go back to school. We had a common goal. I wasn't part of that common goal. I could only help but think, and maybe I'm jumping to a conclusion, but I don't think so. I think if it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, and walks like a duck, it's a duck, meaning that there was microaggressions there and macroaggressions. Another example, on another Facebook page, when the school board in my area had voted to try to get the kids back in school, and they voted for a different type of model to use, I just expressed my displeasure with that. I had the right to. I'm raising my kids, by the way. My ex-wife is not raising my kids. She took off with somebody else and completely discarded them. I'm raising my kids. I'm their parent. But I was discarded on another page as I expressed myself, and this woman told me to sit my male ass down and quit mansplaining it and shut the fuck up. That's what I was told. That's exactly what I was told to do. When I researched who this person was, and another person jumped into the conversation, said, "Oh, I guess you met my wife. You know, you shouldn't push her around." And I thought it was a guy. It wasn't a guy. It was two lesbians. Two lesbians without children. Now think about that for a second. Think about that for a second. They're in the school. I have kids in the school. They're males. And yet two lesbians told me to quit mansplaining and to sit the fuck down and shut up. Think about what's going on. Think very deeply about what's going on. I'm going to leave you with this. The poet Robert Bly once said that a father can never be a mentor to his male child because they both have similar interest in a woman in their lives. With that said, I bid you a good day. Good day to you, ma'am. Good day to you, sir. And this is Bob Pew Pew, WRFFO Radio, coming out of the Midwest. And I wish you a safe day. I hope you're back at work. I hope you're putting food on your table. I pray for you every day. I pray for our police every day. I pray that our politicians wake up every day. And I pray that you're safe. Because we're the country, not the government. We the people are the country. I pray for you. Amen. Have a great day. Take care.